Hello and welcome to Wake and Jake as we dig through the wild world of sports. Jake Storielli, Big Baby David, presented by Cushy Dreams, the Devers Aftermath. Let's check in on that as we've had a couple days to stew in it, and we've gotten a couple Red Sox front office quotes, and it's the beauty and the downfall of sports a little bit. When you get a couple days to think about it, sometimes the opinions change, but I appreciate everyone that tuned in to me and Beebs hopping on live, reacting Sunday night. I have a bad anecdote that I'm really frustrated I didn't share during the live reaction that maybe I'll share now if I remember this time. And we'll sort through a little bit more trade stuff. I'm not going to do the whole deep dive on it. I think talking baseball, we're actually going to do that. But more so a standings check-in, what you should be watching for from certain teams, and how that could affect things. But I do think unpacking Devers a little more is where to start, because as we left off, and I think as everyone left off, it was, oh my God, the Red Sox traded Devers. And we, for about 50-plus minutes dove through the value and the contract and Giants run by Buster Posey now, and this Red Sox front office, and people are looking at soccer players Liverpool is signing to see if that affects them, which it's just a lot of moving parts in the whole deal. A couple days removed. We haven't had too many Devers stories leak out yet. We just have had more Devers wasn't fitting in. Devers wasn't cooperating. There was one word that they used, alignment. In the Red Sox front office, CEO Sam Kennedy and Chief Baseball Officer Craig Breslow. We used to call those the GM. I don't know. Things got complicated. Teams were taking guys from people, so they made rules that if you change guys' titles,
like you can only poach a guy if it's for a higher title. So
you can poach GMs, but you can't take senior VPs or something like that. So that's why.
You could steal someone's GM if you made him a president of something.
What's that about, baseball? We'll dive into that another time, but that's a lie because don't fully care. They did a 40-minute Zoom, which some people weren't happy about. Face the music. And they said the word alignment 9 times, which they decided that was their term that they were going to lean into to show that Rafael Devers, from a leadership standpoint, Rafael Devers from a changing position standpoint, and the way he was affecting the locker room was clearly not what they wanted. So, initially you just get fan reaction, then you get reaction from other GMs, which I've got articles from ESPN and The Athletic with different people in the industry's reaction, along with, some of the stuff that's leaked out, because one of the things that I fell into in the Devers trade was, and John Morosi gets an assist on this. I was watching MLB Network the night of the trade. Haven't crossed the bridge with Morosi. Maybe we will. Maybe this is the start. And something that he alluded to that was, I like when there's an argument that you can't fully argue against, was that if Rafael Devers was happy, if Rafael Devers was playing first base, that he wouldn't have been for sale. They wouldn't have been having trade talks. I often wonder what the life of a GM is actually about. But if Rafael Devers was the Boston Red Sox first baseman and he said, yeah, sure, I'm going to grab a glove, I'll hop over to first, Casas is out for the year, yeah, I'll play some first base. And, as a lot of people have fallen on the side of Devers or just not the Red Sox, Bryce Harper did that very same task as of a year and a half ago. When was that? Did he play a full season at first base yet?
I think last year was the full year, so maybe 2 years ago is when we...
Yeah, maybe 2 even. And Bryce, and more so should just be a credit to Bryce, as I try to do when I can. He transitioned really smoothly to the fact that he's a solid first base defender, injured right now. But, this transaction didn't need to happen on a lot of fronts. If Devers just kind of ate the frog in this situation and said, I'm going to play first base, or I'm a DH now, and if Rafael Devers was a yes man, which sometimes is a good thing, sometimes is a bad thing, this trade doesn't happen. If the Red Sox front office, and that is the new, I thought stories were going to leak out about Devers. Stories are leaking out about Breslow, the chief baseball officer, formerly known as a GM, that Craig Breslow has been talked about a lot, and especially a lot more these past couple days, because he is a big part of the Devers beef. He is a big part of the you don't need your glove anymore. They did not give Devers that contract. And, there's a couple stories that are leaking out that saying he's not maybe the ideal personality for the job. Maybe he is. Like, that's always a funny thing, right? Like, Bill Belichick's personality when he was winning was genius. Same with Greg Popovich. When they're losing, it's just like, oh, well, that's not genius. They're losing. That any personality kind of works when you're winning. That's one of the secrets of it. But one of the stories came out, and I think June Lee came out with an article. Friend,
I think he had the one that was making the rounds in my circles, at least.
Yeah, and Buster just on his new article on ESPN. But a scout that had been long time with the Boston Red Sox, Carl Moesch, I don't know, Moesche.
I sat looking at that for a while, and I was really glad I didn't have to say it out loud.
That's tough. That guy knows when to turn down a phone call. They were on a Zoom. He thought his voice couldn't be heard. He said, "Thanks, Bress, you fucking stiff." Which, okay, word to the wise, if you're on Zoom and you're about to say something about your employer, maybe triple check the mute or
that you ended.
Or save it for after.
Exit the room.
Because it's rarely worth it in that moment. And this cost Moesch, like Dochi. Listen to her stuff. She's pretty good, huh? We don't know how to say his name. It led to Carl, a longtime scout with the Red Sox, being fired. And Buster notes that there should just be some self-reflection in that if Carl Moesch, if Carl was willing to make that joke out loud for other people on a Zoom, that means he wasn't the only one with that opinion, which is a little good analysis by Buster. That's peeling back the layers. Like Carl, it doesn't seem like Carl was just operating alone on that. So we've got a new front office man whose personality isn't being received so well. And again, end of the day with sports, it comes back to winning, because Michael Jordan was a prick and an asshole, but he won like the most, so people loved him. I have a Jordan thing later. I know that's not normally my lane, but I stumbled into something. While you touch on the NBA Finals, the other thing, so yeah, again, for our Boston GM right now, Breslow, if they go on to win these next 5 years, he's an absolute genius, and this Devers trade is amazing, and he's one of the best to ever do it. If not, he's a personality that wasn't cut out for the job. He couldn't handle it. The other thing that is interesting here, and these are the details I don't know yet, but I did see a tweet from our friends at Foul Territory. They said there was a Rafael Devers trade that was brought to John Henry that was turned down because the Red Sox were eating part of the contract. So that can mean a couple different things. We don't know. We don't know. New gift that my friends are sending, if you're trying to add to your text gift collection, there's a good Stephen A. Smith gift of him saying, I just want to let everyone know, we don't care. We don't care. Good mix, good gift, add it to your mix. I distracted myself with that one. It's a good gift. What was I talking about, Beaves?
The previous trade brought to the owner. Where
Yeah. So yes, thank you. So there was a trade brought to Henry that was turned down. So this could have been the same deal, but they could have just been eating money, and then maybe they threw Jordan Hicks in instead. Like it could mean nothing. Like the trade that went down, the money that was just going to be quote unquote eaten could have been turned into a human and more money. So we shouldn't go too far with this unless it comes out it's something drastic. But it just goes to show the first part of if Devers was happy, this top 10 hitter in the league doesn't get traded, and it's just not even discussed. And number two, the money is a factor in this, which as we've talked to some of our Red Sox fans and as people got to have more normal thoughts about this, it's how are the Red Sox going to spend this money? Because if you had this money and you proved you were going to spend this money, could it be pieces at the deadline? And we can eye some of that. Is it going to be they're going to write it out for this year where nothing was promised with Devers for this team. And they did aggressively come out, and I respect it. They came out in the press conference and they were like, hey, we think maybe we can win more games this year. I don't believe that. I think you'd want Rafael Devers on your team this year in his prime, walking more than ever, to try to win baseball games. I think that's fair. And the other weird wrinkle of this, which has almost not made the story louder, the put-together Red Sox platoon of Toro and Romy Gonzalez has kind of been balling out. So, again, do whatever you want with that. But it is another head tilt moment for me that, okay, so if this player wasn't just unhappy, which both sides are to blame on it, this trade would have never happened. And money is clearly a factor in the organization in some way, shape, or form. We don't know how to fully judge that yet. But if Devers was under a team-friendly contract, I don't think that any of this happens anyway. If he's on the Jose Ramirez, I don't think this happens anyway. So it's where will the Red Sox counter with that money? Will it be in this season? And will Craig Breslow and the Red Sox be able to flex that muscle of saying like, hey, guys, yeah, we traded away Devers and it wasn't popular, but we were able to add this pitcher and this hitter or these two more pitchers. Because if the Red Sox want to dance this year, they're going to need more pitching help. Or can they win them over in the offseason? Or maybe extend one of these kids long term. However, the Boston fans know you have the money. You're using it. Yeah, already had it allocated for Devers. You're using it to buy soccer players over in Europe. You're going to have to show them the money at some point. And I wonder if it's one of the kids, which, man, there is a world where the Red Sox make sense of it. They've already, Rafaela has the kid extension. Christian Campbell has the kid extension. Brian Bayo has the kid extension. They could do this right where they're like, hey, we didn't want him as a team leader. He didn't fit what was best for our team going forward. We're going to attack it this way, and that's the bet we're making. And they clearly are. The only caveat on that, there were a lot of feelings in play. And that probably brings us to Britt Garoli had an article with The Athletic getting some MLB execs, manager and coaches' reactions. They're all anonymous, which kind of makes sense, right? But it's a little all over the board from, in quotes, the Luka Doncic trade, because as I was rambling on in the original Wake and Jake reaction episode, I was curious to how much this was shopped, and apparently a few teams were notified that Devers was available. But this wasn't a league-wide bidding, which, again, I still don't fully know what to do with that, just because when I originally did the exercise, there's only so many teams that would be willing to take on a $250 million contract, and it's probably, I landed at 10. During mid-season, tapping your owner on the shoulder to take on $250 million? Less. And we eliminated, like, the Yankees were going to get Devers. So I debated if the Mets, like the Blue Jays, also probably not in play, if we're being honest.
Like, probably any AL team.
Right. There's a chance they were just so fed up. They had to move him on. They had to get value. They got the blessing from the owner of getting off the money. An AL evaluator said we got our Luka trade. I don't know. I mean, Luka's on potentially next dude of the league, and that league is run by dudes, and that's just different. I made the same comp, but I appreciate it. Again, a lot of execs were just shocked that it happened during the season. Like, the Red Sox, that's something that probably won't be told over time with this trade, that they just swept the Yankees. Like, in 4 years, when we know Rafael Devers as a San Francisco Giant now, we won't really be talking about the sweep and being like, okay, so they swept the Yankees to get one game above 500? Who cares?
Get a half game out of a playoff spot.
Felt a little different in the moment. But yeah, the fact that this got done and they didn't wait to the deadline, which I guess you could tie that into, I don't know how much value they were either going to get or not get for Rafael Devers. But like everyone's talking about, executives are saying this is a masterclass on miscommunication from both sides. Like, again, maybe Devers is getting a little too much of a pass from the general public because we're just seeing good people get traded. And there's a lot of front offices, and this is where the front office mind kicks in, that they're like, this can be a beautiful thing for the Red Sox. They got some young talent back. Like, Kyle Harrison has a chance to be a good lefty pitcher. Like, it just needs another pitch and the light bulb to go on, which every year we see that happen with a pitcher, and they're great. Then maybe they brought in a young, cheap pitcher, and that's what the Red Sox need. They also got out from $250 million, and for them, what had now turned into a DH. So a lot of front offices had those glasses on and are saying that this was good for Boston. I do think when they're saying that, they're thinking situationally, as there was another front office person that was quoted by saying, like, an NL manager, Britt Garoli, I think Katie Wu helped on this article too.
I believe so.
The NL manager, so that's got it down to 15 people. It's stupid. Financial flexibility is great for small market team like Tampa or Cleveland, but you're the Boston Red Sox and it shouldn't be a big priority. You should be flexing your financial might and trying to win the World Series. You want to move Devers because he starts to suck, okay, but he's a top 10 hitter. End quote. The only thing I would add to that quote is that he might be getting better right now. And that's some of the walk ratio stuff that we've discussed. That, yeah, I think if you're any team that's saying that Boston did great, you have too much of the GM lens just blinding you.
Like, I think a lot of people with that mindset are like, it's rare to move off this much money without it being like eating some, like the Stanton trade, they moved off more money than this. Marlins ate some of that. All things considered a negligible amount, but they ate some.
Essentially a DH of sorts. An interesting trade to look back at. And there was a lot of moving parts there between. Did Stan have a no trade at the time?
He had a no trade that he had just used to veto moves to the Giants.
Right.
Who get Devers now and
look at that.
So
teams turning down the Giants for years, and the Giants looking for hitters for years, and the Red Sox being willing to move on from stars. Yeah, that was the only. It was from the Red Sox president, who I wasn't super familiar with before this trade, as Breslow was taking a lot of it. Sam Kennedy, that he had a quote that was like, we're incredibly proud of what we've done here. We put our record against anyone else's MLB record over the last 24 years, and it's like, okay, I'm going to call timeout there. Because I don't know if you guys can take credit for the past 24 years of Red Sox baseball. Like, that's illegal. You don't get those points. Obviously, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. The Red Sox lineup on paper looks so much different right now, especially with Bregman out. That being said, they won last night. They are now on a 5 or 6 game win streak? I just had the standings up in front of me. How do they not have that? Oh, I went to the expanded standings. The Red Sox are on a 6-game win streak as we record this. And Roman Anthony hit his first major league home run. So winning solves everything. They are 5.5 games out of the East. They are currently in the last wild card spot. The beasts of the East, the Rays, the Jays, and the Red Sox, kid. Coming from a couple weeks ago where none of those teams were in the playoffs. Now, if they started today, all 3 of them would be, which is a mix of them getting hot, the Mariners, and the AL Central getting horribly cold. We'll continue to track this. It's not over yet, and it has just opened up. I think it's opened up everyone's trade valve, right? Like it's one of the more fun things that happens in this sport when it does happen. June 17th. So we've got like a month and a half to the actual trade deadline. And again, today's not the day on Wake and Jake to deep dive into it. We'll have more time to do that. But I think I wanted to, and it's the reason why I brought up the standings, do a zoom in, zoom out for a little bit to see what we can really be doing at this trade deadline. So I mentioned the American League. If you're trying to plunder from American League teams, I would be really worried. Because on the buyer-seller scale, in the American League East, the Yankees are buying. They're the New York Yankees. They're in first place. They still have a 2.5 game lead in the division, even though that number was a little higher a couple days ago. Whatever. Gonna let it go. They're the New York Yankees. They're 42-29. They have holes. They're going to be buyers at this deadline. Pitching, maybe third base, maybe cashing in some chips. The Yankees are extremely deep right now. If you go to their Fangraphs page, Paul Goldschmidt and Giancarlo Stanton or Jason Dominguez are listed as bench options. With the Yankees, if there was a needle-moving trade and a Dominguez needed to get involved, which that would have seemed like blasphemy a few weeks ago, the Yankees are going to be involved. Blue Jays, I've given this speech a lot. I think the Blue Jays, before this year, they could have been selling everyone. Vlad would be the story around baseball. Just a reminder, if you think the Devers contract is bad, Vlad, 2 years younger, got $250 million more. He got double the Devers contract. Very similar career hitting numbers, by the way. Eerily similar. Hey, there's some Toronto stuff there. There's some 2 years younger does matter because 2 years of their prime, but let's see how that... We don't need to do that
argue
right
he's a DH.
Blue Jays, you don't need this right now. You're playing great. You were the top wildcard team for a while. You're currently second. Red Sox, I guess, wild card, baby. Let's see what happens next. Is it Duran? Is it a kid? Who knows? The Tampa Bay Rays are currently your top wild card team and 2.5 games out of the American League East. I told you the whole thought exercise with them is really interesting because they've really only missed the playoffs by 1 year. But the other 2 years before that, they made the 2-game wild card and didn't win a game. So how are they viewing themselves? They would have a very interesting piece or two. Currently, Rays alive, it was kind of assumed they would be around the wild card and they would do one of their Rays buy-sell. And I guess in a way, that's still very on the table because if the Red Sox are willing to trade Devers, you don't think the Rays will move Brandon Lau for the right price? Rays will be in a very interesting spot. The Orioles are still out. They don't feel as dead as they used to. They're 30-41. It's over, right? They'd have to go nuts the next month, and they have not shown that. But they're starting to get pitching. Orioles, sellers, and the team that a lot of people are excited to sell. The Central, bro, has just pooped their pants recently. And you guys know I don't like to talk like that. That's literally potty talk. I don't like to talk like that. Tigers have been a gem the whole way. They'll be looking to add there in a lot of trades. The Minnesota Twins, we had them selling really early on. They got hot. They're back to a game above 500. Guardians are 500. What the hell happened with them? They don't have much to add. They don't have much to sell. Maybe the Lane Thomas retread continues to happen. And then the Kansas City Royals. Did you know 34-38? The wheels have fallen off completely. They called up Jack Caglione to try to help solve problems. They are swimming the wrong direction so deep that they could end up being on a seller's team, which they have some interesting arms between bullpen and starters, that could end up being the right one-year move for the Kansas City Royals, who have some young talent, but it doesn't feel complete, does it? Anyways, White Sox, no thanks. In the West, Houston is dominating and will be adding. And, like, grab your cowboy boots and whatever you ride horses with, because Houston's here, and it's going to only get better. Houston is 41-31. They're missing Yordan Alvarez. Altuve's been bouncing. He's been playing left field. He's actually started to pick it up recently. They're 20th in runs scored, and they don't have the 20th offense in baseball. They are primed for Yordan. They're primed to add another lefty, whether that's a Brandon Lauer or Ryan O'Hearn. They currently list 6 starters in their rotation, and they still have the bad man on the back end. Like, it's Hader, and then between Abreu, King, if Okert has a good week, they are all around a very good team. They're in first place by 4.5 games. They're 10 games over 500. And it seems like things haven't gone great for them. I guess pitching-wise it has. But offensively, it has not. Which, speaking of offensively, it has not. The Rangers are 500, which doesn't have them far out of the wild card. I don't think they're going to sell. This is a team that's had real expectations. This is a team that's had, it felt like everything go wrong. They're a game out. The Texas Rangers, that had the most toxic offense in baseball for 2 months, are a game out of the wild card. They're in and they're buying, and they've got a payroll. And
you're going to tell that core group that they don't have a chance that they find a way into the playoffs?
They won a World Series. They've got Bochy managing. Like, for some of the performances they've got, they're not selling. So even the Angels are 2.5 out right now. I still think they're going to sell, but my goodness, the Royals are behind the Angels. So if you're looking to buy from an AL team, I've currently got one friendly place to shop. It's the Orioles, and I don't know how friendly it is. If I'm being for real with you. Yes, the Athletics and White Sox are friendly. Tell me who on their team moves the needle for your team. And don't get me wrong, I've rode the Andujar helicopter for far too long. But it's just different. In the National League, the Cardinals are starting to fade. They're 2.5 out of a wild card spot. They had what felt like their hot run. They're 3-7 in their last 10. Looked like a little bit of smoke and mirrors. They were one of the teams. They had an Arenado trade before the season. Houston turned it down. Arenado turned it down. So that third base position, which, God, I know our Yanks are still hunting. There's a couple teams. Kansas City? Who's the other? There's another team that really needs third base. I'll circle back on it. Would that be easy for him?
And I wonder,
where's Arenado? If any of you have Nolan Arenado's address, would it be easy for him to go from the Cardinals to the Royals?
I mean, I wonder if Houston calls back. Big part of why he turned it down was he didn't like the direction they're going after Tucker.
Hey, you want to just do this again? Hey, that trade we did.
We're still good, by the way.
That trade we already did? I don't know about that. Cardinals, Ryan Helsley, some bullpen pieces, a couple arms as well. Where else is Poppy looking? Lost my standings page. Brewers are back in the mix, by the way. They're one game out of the wild card. They had a really lackluster start. They kept doing that just little bit under 500 game. They had their big week. They're 39-34, a game behind the Padres. Oh. Yeah, so I remember, I think the last time we fully checked in on trade stuff, Freddie Peralta was one of the more exciting pieces teams were thinking about getting into. I don't think they're going to get into that business. I think they want to win games, and Freddie Peralta's under a great contract. Very Brewers-y contract. The teams currently in the playoffs, by the way, I don't even need to mention in the NL. Like the Padres, the Giants, and the Phillies, what do you think they're doing? They're at it. Cincinnati Reds have entered my heart again, and they're just messing with me. They're 37-35. They're playing decent. I don't know. The Arizona Diamondbacks are 36-35, and they are the new team that everyone wants to sell. Because if you want corner infield help, how about Naylor or Eugenio Suarez? Bing bong. If you're looking for pitching help, I think they've got Merrill Kelly, Zach Gallen. They've got some bullpen arms. It hasn't been their strength, but they have trade deadline bullpen arms. The resurgent of Shelby Miller.
If you're one of the teams that's a pitching lab and you're like, Ginkle, I've got the fix.
Yeah. Just make it run more. All the trade deadline helped. I saw Lourdes Gurriel on some lists. If you are a team that needs help, you should be rooting against the Diamondbacks. And I don't like saying that. They've been so nice to me. But if you're one of the buying teams for sure, you should be rooting against the Diamondbacks because they could fill a lot of commitments, pitching, outfield, infield, that they are one of the pivot teams this trade deadline. And as I've talked about, Mike Hazen, who runs the Diamondbacks, he has the long-term extension. He's got wiggle. He brought them to the dance. He's done very good things with that franchise. If it's the year to sell, he will. But God, that offense still does some work, and I wouldn't be rattled. I wouldn't be surprised if they rattle off the big streak at some point. The team everyone has been horrified to talk about because Rockies, Pirates, Marlins, I don't know. Nationals, sure, go get you some Nate Lowe. Go get you some Mike Soroka. Finnegan. They're a delightful trade deadline team. Ahmed Rosario. Go nuts. The Atlanta Braves are 31-39. That's bad. That is really bad.
That's a bad record.
That's really bad. It's not a little bad. That's really bad. I saw Ozzie Albies trade rumors, a guy on one of what was viewed as one of the most valuable contracts in baseball. Atlanta, this week and a half, has 7 versus the Mets. Could the Mets flip the script on the past 2 years, 5 years, 25 years of Mets Braves baseball and deliver a true knockout blow to the Atlanta Braves? Need to see it to believe it. It's one of those weird things where Acuna's playing really well. Matt Olson's season stats are there. Ozuna, same. Drake Baldwin was there, not as much recently. If the Braves aren't in it, they've got some bullpen pieces. Would they be willing to shake something up from their quote-unquote core? And I brought this earlier and Braves fans yelled at me, but a Sean Murphy at this year's deadline. If they really like Drake Baldwin, what you could turn that into for the next couple years. And I guess all of this is to say Marcell Ozuna on the final year of his deal. That would be very interesting for a couple teams. Maybe the Red Sox and Giants, we had this overreaction, and it is crazy. It's a crazy deal, like on the spectrum of surprise deals, Devers actually getting traded is very high up there. Maybe it is the slight window crack into what we've dreamed about with contenders trading with contenders and those are GMs putting themselves out there a little bit more, because in these next couple years, you're going to get some info. It's not trading for a prospect that's going to be called up for 2 years and then you hope they're good in another 2 years. Like we got some stuff we're going to find out. I don't have too much other trade stuff for you. There might be a couple catchers available. There might be a couple outfielders available. Hey, we could have done all this a week ago, and we would have never anticipated Devers. So let's see what else pops up. Something else I'd like to hit on, America's GM really quick. I got excited because he came out with 7 trades he'd like to see before the MLB deadline. I'm sorry to Jim Bowden. I do respect his game. The article has been changed to 6 trades he'd like to see before the deadline, which was really interesting because I clicked it when it was 7. And I scrolled through the article, and there's a couple interesting things. Sandy Alcantara, as we've danced around, has started pitching well lately, and so he knocked out a Cubs trade, which there's been a lot of smoke around that. Okay, I'm interested. Eugenio to the Tigers. That was the other third base team I was looking for. Sure, why not? The Orioles and the Phillies trading. Felix Bautista and Cedric Mullins? Yeah. Like the Phillies and Orioles trade. They did all their relievers. Austin Hayes.
They like to link up.
It seems like they have a good relationship. It seems like the Orioles are out of it. It seems like the Phillies are into it. Like, I love that. I love what Uncle Jim did there. Luis Robert to the Padres. Yeah, people have been doing rumors about that.
We asked for that a couple weeks ago.
Harry Ford for Josh Naylor. Mariners D-backs. Electric. I daydreamed of Josh Naylor on the Yankees today.
Whoa.
Ben Rice. Is that insane? Could be. David Bednar to any team. Why not? In the comment section, I believe what I'm being told, and I'll let you guys scroll this, and I don't want to throw my guy too far into the bus. Who knows what happened? It could have been an editor. There's some AI rumors here, but it looks like there was an Angels trade for Soler, and they traded Soler for Angels prospects. So it was an Angels for Angels trade. So I don't know what not shots fired.
I think that trade's done.
I'm the guy here that likes to check in and use some of this to talk about. So no shots fired. Maybe something happened, but yeah, some of the comments are funny. Is this an AI hallucination? The article being changed from 7 trades to 6 trades. So I feel like I'm blowing up their spot when I use them a lot. But sometimes life just happens. So that's what's going on in baseball. Coming now from Devers. Trade deadline has gained interest from everyone after that trade because holy cow. I'm looking at something Dalton has prepared. Marcell Ozuna to the Red Sox? Maybe that'll be another time. Let's not daydream that now. Go use your money differently, Red Sox, and that would make people feel better. Or if Roman Anthony is that guy, keep winning and everyone will feel better. Let me do a little NBA talk. If you've been keeping up with the finals, it's been a delicious NBA finals, which everyone was wondering if it would be. But the contrasting styles of Indiana's, I think Simmons and Russillo called it the 6.5 seconds or less offense as an homage to the old Phoenix Suns teams that were 7 seconds or less. The Pacers just unwillingness to die, which it's just shocking that it seems like it's every game. They almost did it again last night. The Thunder end up rolling away late. They didn't have enough. J-Dub goes for 40. And I'll be honest with people. Some of my closeness to players or teams used to come from stuff like video games or being able to watch more games that, back in the day, I probably would have run 115 NBA dynasties, and Jalen Williams would have probably been on 6 of them, and I would have appreciated him more. Instead, I'd see the guy that runs with Shea, and I saw the guy that had a bad playoffs last year. And I saw, and I think a lot of sports fans might have to change their whole image of athletes, because this Oklahoma City crew is just a bunch of nice guys that are just really goddamn good at basketball. And like, we've lived in this sports mentality of like, you don't okay, end of the day, we don't care. Win the games. Like, if the Oklahoma City guys were nice and they were losing 60 games a year, we'd say that you're like too nice. Like, we don't care. Stephen A. Smith gift. Instead, they're a game away from winning the NBA title, and they're this group of young, like, kind of sweet boys that like playing together, and they have fun, and they're still doing the post-game interview thing, which was funny for the NBA Finals because, like, 4 of them got pulled for post-game interviews, so the bench had to, like, scatter amongst themselves to be in everyone's interviews. I thought that was kind of interesting to be like, okay, wait, so who's going to the Chet interview, who's going to J-Dub, who's going to Shea, and then as each interview wrapped up, they started collecting, like, with each other. It's like a very special, cool thing in the way they play defense. If you've been following through any part of the season, it's like nothing the NBA has ever seen before. You've never seen NBA players struggle to run any sort of offense or even get into an offensive set against this Oklahoma City Thunder team. And that being said, the Pacers have been in so many of these games with still, a chance to be alive. That's when they originally won that third game, and they won it. They didn't steal it. They stole the first game. They stole the first game from the Knicks. They've stolen a couple games this playoffs, and it is part of their DNA, apparently. They won the third game, and everyone was looking around like, oh, shoot, is Carlisle one of the best to ever do it? Maybe this Pacers team does have a lot of Dallas Mavericks in it, and that, the Dallas Mavericks team, you looked around the court, and it was a lot of really good basketball players, but you're just like, this isn't what works in the NBA. Pacers will have a chance at home on Thursday, which, those 2 days off, hopefully that's big. Halliburton seems a little banged up. It's also tough to tell with him because he's not a score-first guy, but 0 buckets, that kind of can't happen. So let's see what goes on there. I am a little worried that OKC is going to smell blood in the water. And if they have a chance in Indiana, they might just turn on that vice grip like we haven't seen yet, which led me into, and this is not why a lot of you come to Wake and Jake. I did end up thinking about the NBA Finals and what it means, because right now the NBA has a whole regular season, expanded playoffs. Guys were just sitting out games before that they had to change the rules around that to just get guys to play regular season games, which that's a little insane. And I think things have balanced out a little bit. There's some guys that have gotten hurt in the award system by it, that they're still trying to tweak it. But there's still just a discussion of the NBA product has now hit NHL levels. I believe that the postseason product is so different than the regular season product, between the physicality, how it's called, the level of play that's in it, shortening of the bench, like the whole thing. It ends up making sense, and it doesn't have to be a bad thing for the regular season. I just think the regular season product for the NBA still needs a little more help to get back to where it was, or make playoff seeding matter, or take out the play-in games. Anyways, there was a play late in the Thunder-Pacers game that made me just tilt my head like, oh my God. My guy Nesmith, Aaron Nesmith, who ended up stealing that game 1 from the Knicks and ruining their whole playoffs, if we're being honest. He had a tip slam dunk late in the game. The Thunder had just opened it up. I think they went up 8 or 10 late. Like, it was it hit the point that Indiana was going to have to play perfect the rest of the way, which they have before, but it just didn't seem like it was happening this night. Nesmith comes over Chet. Reminder, Chet's one of the biggest creatures on this planet. Chet was in decent position to grab a rebound. Nesmith just comes flying over him, like literally splits his hands for the tip-in dunk. And it's a theory that may sound crazy obvious, and I might have to dive into it more, but it's something that has to do with whether it's the World Series or Stanley Cup hockey, the Super Bowl, the NBA Finals. I just named the major sports. Nice, Jake. Credit to me. I think there's something to the theory that you have the best teams, which has a combination of the best players, with the goal of playing at the highest level. A lot of Super Bowls have clunky starts because there's the 2 weeks and you do all the media and there's this just extra pressure of the Super Bowl. That sometimes Super Bowls have a lot of clunky starts. I've talked about the Williams sisters used to play each other in finals, and maybe that's not related because they're like sisters playing on the highest stage. That's just kind of uncomfortable. Like, go beat that person. That's your sister. Anyways, I just kind of have this theory that of the oddities, sports leads to oddities anyways. You know, go to a baseball game, you'll see something you've never seen before. But whether it's the David Tyree helmet catch, or if I want to stay in that game, Manningham down the sideline, which has an argument for one of the best passes and catches ever made, when you have these athletes in the biggest moments playing at the highest level, I think you see the sport literally played at its peak. And again, maybe that sounds super obvious. Like, yes, it's the championship. But between the pressure of it all, the best athletes, the best coaches, guys at their prime. Like, I jump back to, remember when Wiggins took over the NBA Finals and he was just like, what? Like, all of his 9 years of hype have come through in this moment? And there was something kind of beautiful for it. Like, he was the healthiest, he was tapped in, and he was playing at a level he hadn't played before. That Neesmith tip slam, which was like, what? Where did you come from? What was that? And again, it ended up being nothing in the game. I am an MJ person. And if we're talking about the games played at the highest level, you obviously need a good team. The Thunder are the best team in this series. It looks like they're going to win. The Bulls were the best team. Everyone talked about how good Scottie was. MJ was the best, and he played the best in the biggest and best game. So I understand why people are LeBron stans, and you should be. Like, there's a reason it's good debate. But MJ's record in those finals games, and I know a lot of people go back, and the counter to this is, okay, the years MJ didn't make the finals and they lost early, like, that doesn't get held against them. But if LeBron brings a dog shit Cavaliers team to the final, he gets hurt by that. I get that. I just think it's something that adds to the lure and the mystique of it all, that when MJ was in those games, he raised up. And even like, there was a couple shots at the end of this game where Shea was trying to hit the dagger, and he had amazing defense played on him, and he took his kind of, signature shimmy and extra pump fake to try to get the guy off of him, I think, and he couldn't get it done on Nembhard. It was just a realization that obviously MJ didn't make them all, but man, he kind of did. And that's the lasting memory, that when the game was ever played at the highest level for all the marbles, it was MJ. So I don't know. I feel bad for half the crowd that's LeBron stans that tuned into this just to stay for that little dagger at the end. But I think the biggest games, the biggest playoff games, the best teams, the best players in these moments, you see the best of the sport to ever happen. And I think that's where MJ gets it for me. All right. Some of you didn't need that. Neither did I. We will be back on Monday. Go baseball. Make another big trade. Subscribe.